For the past 10 years or so, maybe a little longer, maybe 12, 15 years, it's been fashionable among some people to claim victimhood and that they're victims. And to some extent, there may be some truth to it. And in a sense, anybody could claim victimhood and probably back it up with some sad story, and it might be quite legitimate. But having said that, you are extremely lucky. You are extremely lucky, and I can say that without knowing you. For a good reason. And the first thing I want to say is you're extremely lucky. We know this is true just because of your location. Just because of your location. I'm going to guess that 99 out of 100 people who might potentially watch this video, if anyone does, is 99 out of 100 would be somewhere other than Czechoslovakia in the 1970s. maybe we could say 100 out of 100 would not be in Czechoslovakia in the 1970s, or let's say Cuba today. But one person who was, see, these days it's also fashionable to claim victimhood just because we live in a terrible country, a country where people are expected to pay for things when we really ought to be getting everything free. And the problem with that kind of mentality, as well as other claims of, this being a bad place for other reasons, but one problem with we shouldn't have to pay for anything. Well, where do you get things free? Last time I checked, it was in prison. That's the only place in this world where you get things free. However, they sell that dream in places like Czechoslovakia in the 1970s. They sell the dream of, hey, vote for me and everything's free. We're going to level the playing field. And what they don't tell you is that means everybody's equally impoverished and oppressed. That's what they forget to mention when they claim they're going to run the country with socialism, much like Hitler's Social Democratic Republic or the United Soviet Socialist Republic. But let's just stick to Romania. Richard Wurmbrand was born into this utopian socialist communist society of Romania, or at least he was there during that time, and that's where he lived. And he was an atheist, but then he became a Christian when he realized he was mistaken about being an atheist, and he became a devout Christian. I believe in if I'm not mistaken, it might have been a Lutheran church. It was some Protestant denomination, and he rose to the very top of the church. He was the national leader of the church, very serious Christian. And then that was a problem because Christians, communism is atheist religion. Okay, so they don't tolerate Christians. So basically, he was given a choice. You renounce Christ and turn the church into a joke, or you go to prison. And he wasn't going to renounce Jesus Christ and condemn his own soul. So he went ahead and stuck to he didn't renounce it, and they threw him in prison. Now, if you go to prison in a communist prison, they may say it's you're only here for 5 years or whatever. It's a death sentence in most cases, because you don't, if you die there, then guess what? Your sentence is forever, essentially. So, and that was generally the case. Now, what happens when you're a Christian? Well, what happened to Wurmbrand is he was sent there and he was tortured every day, tortured. Now, imagine this. One day they pull your fingernails out. The next day they beat you with sticks. The next day they take a knife and they dig a big hole in your back. The next day they electrocute you. If they don't like what you're saying in interrogation, they'll strangle you. They'll put you in a freezer. They did this to Wurmbrand. They put him in a freezer and took him right to the edge of death, where his body is half turning to ice. He's freezing like a salmon in the freezer. And then they have a doctor standing by, and at the last moment before he's actually dead, they pull him out of the freezer and thaw him out in order that they can resume interrogation and further torture. How long could you take that? Richard Wurmbrand endured this for 13 years. 13 years of torture. And he could have walked away, by the way, at just about any time by just renouncing Jesus Christ. But he would have also been renouncing eternal salvation, and he wasn't interested in doing that at all. He was much more interested in looking at prison as a... he really thrived there in a sense. He actually had a lot of peace there, and frankly a lot of joy, despite being constantly tortured in between. And it's quite an amazing thing that happened to him there. But anyway, you're extremely lucky for your location, that you don't have to go, at least for now, we're not a communist country, and you don't have to be thrown in prison to die, or just be depressed, because that's what happens when, you know, having been in a communist country during the Cold War, I can tell you the people are, it's a sad, the people are sad, generally. The people are very sad and depressed. Perhaps that's why they have a high alcoholism rate in some places. You are extremely lucky for today. That's another reason you're extremely lucky. Just because you have today and you have a chance, an opportunity. Today is like another lifetime. You woke up and you have another lifetime before you, which is another day before you. You can't take it for granted. You just can't. For example, you have to really count your blessings. For example, a person I knew was a war hero named Leonard Blake. Leonard was an orphan in World War II. I'm going to make this short. He basically, he was in Iwo Jima when a Japanese kamikaze ship flew into his ship that he was on. About 8 or 10 people on the bridge were killed instantly. A bomb blew up 3 decks down right outside of Leonard's his cabin. Leonard was blown across the room. The door, after he regained consciousness, his head was caved in, his foot was half destroyed, his leg was severely wounded. He had a variety of injuries, couldn't even walk, couldn't get up, but he was able to look up and saw his friend walk out the door with a hole this big in his chest. He could see right through his friend, and then his friend fell over dead right in front of him. So Leonard was quite traumatized by what turned out to be an unpleasant nap. The war was over for him. He went back to the U.S. He was an orphan, but he was adopted by the parents of his friend who died on the boat. They had lost their only son. They adopted Leonard, who had he was crippled. He was crippled in tough shape and in tremendous pain. And Leonard, that pain never went away. Leonard lived for about 75 years with nonstop pain. Let me restate that. He lived for about 85 years with nonstop pain, and the wounds didn't even heal. They never healed for about 75 years. For some reason, they wouldn't heal. So he had these that's pretty tough. So if you're better off than that, you have a lot to be thankful for just for today. And we can also be thankful for heroes like Leonard, who made this kind of sacrifice for the rest of us, fighting for our freedoms. And you are really lucky for your opportunity. The opportunity you have just because you're alive, just because you have been given the unbelievable gift of life. You can't take it for granted. Just for example, look at Terry Fox. This was a kid in junior high. Terry Fox came down with cancer. He was in the death ward in the hospital. Nobody leaves there alive. But Terry was an exception. He did leave there alive, which was unusual. However, all the kids he met in there did not leave. They never had the opportunity. They died. And he left there. They cut off his leg and amputated his leg to stop the cancer. And he decided right then that anyone who wastes their opportunity and doesn't appreciate the life they're given doesn't even deserve to live. And Terry said this, and the reason he was so passionate about it is because all of those kids he met were never going to get a chance to live, ever. Their life was over, and they were just kids. They were going to die in that death ward. But Terry had a life. He had one more chance at life, and he wasn't going to waste it. And he had no tolerance for anyone who would just waste their life, take it for granted, and whine and complain. Well, these kids would never even got a chance to live. So Terry said, you know what, I'm going to do something with what time I have left. So he set out to run across Canada with. Keep in mind, he had a prosthetic leg. So he would run every day, a marathon every single day. That's 26 miles a day. And his plan was to do that until he crossed Canada. And he did it for something like 170 days. I don't know the exact amount, but he made it almost all the way across Canada. Now, keep in mind, you're running 26 miles in every single day. That means by a couple of miles into that, his stump is bleeding down his prosthetic leg, and it's chafing every time that stump comes down on the prosthetic leg. And so he's got blood on his pants, blood on his prosthetic leg, and he's got another 24 miles to go, and that's just until tomorrow. So he ran all the way across Canada, but he came a little short because the cancer came back just before he got to the other side, and he died. But he had that little bit of life left, and he lived it to the fullest. And because of what he did, all these charity runs we hear about and walks and everything, they were really inspired by what Terry Fox did. So, as you can see, we all have an opportunity, and we need to realize that can be taken from us at any time. And you are extremely lucky to have an opportunity, so don't waste it. Don't waste even a minute. Thanks for watching. This is Lessons, Life Lessons. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.